Welcome to another Kamikaze creation video. Working on the old Celica again, mainly on the motor. Just tidying up a few loose ends. Last video I worked on that the cold side and getting it all tidied up. And this video I'm working on the hot side. So the turbo manifold that I bought with the spare motor, the manifold, the turbo studs were bolts welded in. They were too short for the turbos that I've got, and they're a little bit ugly. So I'm just looking at taking those studs out. I'm going to have to grind them off and drill them out, and then re-tap the manifold, put some new studs in, and get the turbo back on there. So we'll work through that process. But again, thank you everyone for hitting that like button last time that I mentioned it. I very rarely mention it, but it really helps me out and costs you nothing. So if you can hit that like button if you like something I'm doing, leave me a comment again. Tell me about what you're doing. Tell me if you've got a 1G, things that you've done to it down in the comments. Get a bit of conversation going. It all helps with the old YouTube algorithm and getting this stuff out there. And I'm going to keep working on this little motor, and I'll show you how I progress. I'm just working on this turbo manifold, and these studs aren't long enough to get a good nut on, get the gasket on. It's got a metal gasket, then get a washer and get a nut. There's not enough thread there. And this is a custom made manifold. The bolts have been welded in there, so I'm just slowly drilling them out. Cut the stud off, hit it with a center punch right in the center, and then using a series of drills to open it out. Eventually I'll size them for the appropriate tap, and I'll tap them and put some studs in there. I've got several of these studs left over, and I bought these from racebolts.com.au, but they're a titanium stud. These ones are actually 38 UNC 38 UNF, but that's what I'm going to use. So whack that through the old turbo, and we've got a nice amount of thread sitting out there. They're a really good quality bolt, and I have them, so I'm going to use them. So I've finally got all 4 studs out. All I've done is drill them out. I've used an 8mm drill. That'll allow me to use a 3/8 stud, which I have. I'm really happy with this end result. Cutting those old studs out, and I'll put the turbo in a second and show you how this works. But these were from Race Bolts, as I said. They're titanium studs. I had a full set left over from my 202 build. And these are the hold manifold stud bolts to hold your extractors and intake manifold. So I drilled and tapped those holes out to 3/8 and have fitted the studs in, and now I'll slip the turbo back on and show you how much better they are. So I've whacked the turbo back on, and now I've got heaps of, sorry about that sunshine, plenty of studs sticking out so I can get that full nut on there. I'm going to try to also get a washer on there, but that's so much better. You should have seen the old ones. I'll see if I can find a picture of the old ones, but that's so much better than it was. Really nice modification. I've also taken the wastegate. This had an internal wastegate on it, so I've taken that off. That's sitting down here. You can see it all set up there, and I've ordered an adapter plate to go on there so I can use an external wastegate on the dump pipe. Just had to get the right stud pattern for this turbo. So definitely moving forward on the old project, and starting to get it to a point where I can run a bit of piping. I'm really stoked because I was just speaking about this and it came in the mail. So that's the adapter plate. The old one, as I showed you a minute ago down here, had the internal wastegate on it, and didn't want to go that way. So yes, I bought this online, just an eBay purchase, just found the right stud pattern for the turbo, and that's a 3-inch V-band setup. So I can go from there and dump out the back. So pretty happy with that little purchase, and really happy with the way it looks on the turbo as well. It definitely looks beefier than having that internal wastegate set up. So guys, that's a good movement ahead for me. I'm really happy with the progress and the way I'm getting to know this motor, just looking over it, just trying to get everything right before I start fitting it into the car, because I want to sit it into the car and hook it up and get it running. So really going over it, making sure all the boxes are ticked. The next thing I've got to do for this is start looking at the, if we can get up under here, looking at the oil waste which runs from there down to there. So I've got a couple of bits and pieces that I can look at setting that up, because it's pretty hot in around there. So I've got a steel pipe hopefully that I can modify and get that running down behind the exhaust and back into the sump. So yeah, she's starting to move ahead really well. It's looking good. I even found the distributor cap and the plug leads. Just sat that on there because I was sitting on the floor, but she's all coming together well. If you like this little beast and you like seeing it progress, I can't wait to hear it start up, because it is a beautiful sounding motor. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and you'll keep up to date with what's happening with the little 1G inline 6, I think it's a 2-litre inline 6 build. This engine is pre the 1J and the 2J.